What if I told you the companies revolutionizing our world are also destroying the economy that keeps them alive? In their rush to replace humans with AI, tech giants are firing their own customers, creating a financial black hole where no one can afford their products. This isn't just another recession, it's corporate suicide on a global scale. Consumer spending is the engine of the US economy, making up about 70% of all activity. So when jobs disappear, the entire system starts to unravel. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Goldman Sachs predicts 300 million jobs could vanish across the US and Europe by 2030, and what that means for your mortgage, groceries, and future. Let's look at the foundation of the consumer economy and why it's so vulnerable to disruption. Every product in your home, from your phone to your groceries, exists because someone earned money and spent it. That's the basic cycle. People work, get paid, and buy things. But as AI takes over more jobs, this cycle starts to break down. According to studies cited in our research, consumer spending accounts for about 70% of the US economy. Most companies depend on people having steady paychecks to keep shelves empty and factories running. When those paychecks disappear, the effects ripple outward. Goldman Sachs projects that as many as 300 million jobs across the US and Europe could vanish by 2030 due to automation. Not just transformed, but eliminated entirely. The cracks are already visible. Retailers install self-checkout machines replacing cashiers. Trucking firms test self-driving rigs, cutting the need for human drivers. White-collar roles aren't immune. Law firms use AI to review contracts. Banks deploy algorithms to process loans. Each move makes sense for the company's bottom line, but together they chip away at the very customer base businesses rely on. The chain reaction is simple and devastating. A self-checkout machine might replace 4 cashiers. Those 4 people lose their income, so they stop shopping at the mall. Clothing stores see less revenue and start laying off their own staff. The cycle continues, with each automated job eroding more spending power from the economy. What's most striking is the pace and scale. MIT and Boston University researchers predict up to 2 million US manufacturing jobs could be automated away by the end of this year alone. Globally, McKinsey estimates that between 400 and 800 million individuals could be displaced by automation by 2030. Unlike previous waves of technological change, these jobs aren't moving elsewhere. They're disappearing, replaced by servers that never need a paycheck or a day off. This creates a paradox for corporations. They save money by cutting workers, but those workers are also their customers. When a retailer like Walmart automates its warehouses, the people who once earned a living there can no longer afford to shop in the store. The system starts to consume itself. Tech giants are at the forefront of this trend. Amazon's cashierless stores, Uber's self-driving prototypes, IBM's AI-powered HR departments. Each innovation looks good in a quarterly report, but each one chips away at the pool of people able to buy their products and services. When you hear a company announce it's streamlining operations, it's often another step toward turning customers into costs to be eliminated. And as we'll see, some of the world's biggest companies are accelerating down this path, making decisions that could undermine the very markets they depend on. No going back. The structural shift. What's happening now isn't just another economic slump that will pass with time. The jobs vanishing today aren't being put on pause until the next upswing. They're being erased by technology that's advancing faster than anyone expected. In 2008, millions lost work, but consumer employment rebounded within 5 years thanks to government stimulus and a recovering market. This time the disruption is different. The shift is structural, not cyclical. When AI takes over a role, it doesn't wait for demand to return. It simply keeps getting better, making it less and less likely that those jobs will ever come back. This isn't limited to one sector or skill level. Automation is spreading from factory floors to offices, hospitals, and creative studios. Radiologists, financial advisors, and software engineers, professions once considered safe, are now watching key parts of their jobs handled by algorithms. A 2023 MIT study found that AI can already perform up to 60% of white-collar tasks at human level for half the cost. The result isn't just the loss of repetitive work, but the disappearance of entire career paths that once seemed future-proof. The pace of change is what makes this moment so unsettling. Earlier technological revolutions unfolded over decades, giving societies time to adapt. But AI adoption is accelerating at a speed that leaves little room for adjustment. Tools like ChatGPT went from experimental to essential in under 2 years. Business models that looked secure last year are already obsolete. Companies call it digital transformation, but the reality is a wholesale replacement of human decision-making with automated processes. Inventory, claims processing, even customer service. Each new system means fewer paychecks and less spending circulating in the economy. Feedback loops make the problem worse. As automation eliminates jobs, consumer spending drops, which pressures more businesses to cut costs by automating further. Workers who try to pivot into new fields find those too are being reshaped by AI. Unlike past disruptions, this wave isn't creating new industries fast enough to absorb the displaced. The transformation is happening so quickly that by the time its full effects are obvious, the old economic order will already be gone. What comes next is uncertain. The safety nets built for temporary downturns aren't designed for this kind of permanent change. Generations who plan their lives around stable careers are watching those assumptions dissolve. The challenge isn't just surviving a rough patch, it's facing a future where the rules have changed for good. The consequences of this structural shift are just beginning to unfold, and the road ahead splits into several unsettling directions. Corporate suicide in action. Inside the world's most powerful tech companies, the shift toward automation is no longer hypothetical. It's happening right now. Meta's recent decision to instruct managers to rate 20% of employees as below expectations is a clear signal. This isn't just performance management. It's a manufactured justification for layoffs, clearing the path for AI to take over human roles. The company calls it non-regrettable attrition, but the reality is that real people, users, shoppers, ad clickers, are being quietly pushed out of the very platforms that depend on their engagement. Microsoft, meanwhile, has trimmed 6,000 jobs, not just as a cost-cutting measure, but as part of a strategy to boost the ratio of coders to non-coders. The goal is to prioritize roles that directly drive AI development, even if it means fewer people supporting the broader business ecosystem. Google has reduced its management ranks by 10% in a similar efficiency push, showing that even the layers of leadership aren't safe from the drive to automate. These aren't isolated decisions. They're part of a sector-wide race to streamline operations, often at the expense of the very customers these companies serve. The consequences ripple outward. Google's push to embed AI agents directly into search results means users get instant answers. But digital publishers and creators lose the vital traffic that keeps their businesses alive. If AI summarizes web content so effectively that people never need to click through, entire industries built around online engagement could wither. McKinsey projects that generative AI alone could slash global publisher revenues by $50 billion annually by 2030, as advertising dollars dry up and jobs for writers, editors, and marketers disappear. Even payment companies are preparing for a future where humans are no longer the primary shoppers. Visa and MasterCard are developing tokenized payment systems for AI agents, giving robots their own credit cards and spending limits. In this world, algorithms, not people, make the purchases, stripping away the quirks and impulses that drive human buying decisions. No more last-minute birthday gifts or spontaneous splurges, just cold, calculated transactions between machine. Meta's paradox is especially stark. Platforms like Facebook and Instagram thrive on human attention and ad clicks, yet the company's automation drive eliminates jobs that fund those very clicks. Their year of efficiency saw 21,000 positions vanish, Potential customers who won't be buying Oculus headsets or clicking on Instagram ads. Amazon's warehouse robots tell a similar story. Labor costs drop, but so does demand, as former employees cut back on spending. Third-party sellers report declining sales, not because products are worse, but because fewer people can afford them. Every time a company replaces a $50,000 salary with a $5 server, the financial statements improve, at least for now. 3 dark futures. Let's break down where this could lead by looking at 3 possible futures, each more unsettling than the last. First, picture a world run by feudal tech lords. A handful of AI owners and tech billionaires control the tools, the data, and even the digital infrastructure that everyone else depends on. Sam Altman, for example, could become a digital era king, controlling access to AI while Elon Musk leads a robot workforce that's loyal only to him. The rest of us would function like modern-day serfs, renting access to these systems just to get by. The majority would rely on a basic monthly stipend, just enough for essentials, determined by the whims of the tech elite. Shopping for groceries might mean settling for the cheapest options, while the luxury market becomes a closed loop for the ultra-wealthy who sell and buy among themselves. Economic independence would evaporate, replaced by dependence on the tech class's decisions about how much support to provide. This isn't just theory. Tech leaders openly discuss universal basic income, but studies warn that these programs risk locking in inequality, offering only the bare minimum needed to keep consumption going. The second scenario is a deflationary death spiral. Imagine companies automating away their workforce, only to realize that those former employees were also their customers. As layoffs mount, consumer spending collapses. Company after company fails, not because their products are obsolete, but because nobody can afford them. The IMF warns that AI-driven unemployment could create a historic wave of long-term joblessness, far surpassing what we saw in 2008. The downward cycle continues. Companies fire workers, spending drops, more layoffs follow, and eventually, the economy could shrink to the point where bartering and subsistence replace cash and commerce. In this world, even automated businesses can't survive if there's no one left with money to spend. The third, and most likely future, is a corporate-controlled UBI. In this outcome, tech companies support a basic income not out of generosity, but to ensure people can keep buying their products and clicking on ads. The stipend would cover basic needs, but real autonomy would be out of reach. There would be strings attached. To receive support, you'd have to share your data and accept digital tracking of every purchase. The underlying goal is to keep the consumer machine running, not to empower individuals. While some pilots and proposals are already underway, studies show that most UBI models only maintain a minimum standard of living, with little chance for upward mobility or wealth building. The value of each person would be measured by their usefulness to the tech ecosystem, not by their skills or ambitions. Across all 3 futures, a single thread runs through. Dependence replaces independence, and economic freedom becomes a memory. Your role shifts from worker to data point, from earner to algorithmic consumer.